Hello, in this video we will discuss about what your body learn during fasting. So the fasting means starvation period when we will not eat a longer time, for example the 16 hours or throughout the day. So first of all I want to explain about during fasting. So that what will be happen during fasting, the glucose level in blood drop drastically, so hypoglycemia will be occur. And during fasting your body in catabolism, so that is what catabolism mean, that is a part of anabolism. No, sorry, that is part of metabolism, catabolism, that and anabolism. So here is catabolism. Catabolism mean the breakdown of the glycogen is known as glycogenolysis, while the lipid breakdown is known as lipolysis in the adipose tissue. And gluconeogenesis also occur through fat, as well as the reverse mechanism of the glycolysis in the liver. And proteolysis is also occur, but a proteolysis will occur after a long term of fasting. And during fasting insulin drop and glucagon increase, so that is why the catabolism due to the breakdown of glycogen, and insulin is the anabolic, so it will be inhibit. And during the fasting your autoimmune system will sympathetic mode, but later on it will convert into the parasympathetic nervous system, but also play important role parasympathetic nervous system during the fasting. Let's begin to understand with brain. Here is the higher brain cortex. This higher brain cortex will detect the stimulus, for example, the fasting and starvation period will detect. After this detection, there are many physiological aspects will be occur. So here I am drawing the blood circulatory system with heart, which that is the circulate throughout the body. So it is the closed double circuit circulatory system in human body. So for example here is the artery and vein, and I am drawing just coloring with the red color, but you can understand as well. So in this way the heartbeat will be slowed down due to the preservation of the energy, the store of the energy, and releasing less energy and using the consumption of energy will be decreased. How it's possible? Here is the cardioregulatory center and chemoreceptor are present in medulla oblongata, which that can be sense the chemical carbon dioxide and oxygen used for the breathing more or less. So here is the vagal nerve activation due to the parasympathetic activity, and that's vagal nerve is the cranial nerve 10, which that is stimulate. And after the stimulation, for example, suppose here is the heat production in the skin from the skin through a vasodilation. Vasodilation will convert into the vasoconstriction. How? Because the sympathetic nervous system innervation. Sympathetic nervous system norepinephrine and epinephrine produce to vasoconstriction. But in this case, vasoconstriction means the preservation of the vital organ. So here is you can see heart condition will again the cool down the body. So that's mechanism, and in this way the cold weather is also work in this mechanism, because maintain the temperature 36 to 37 into the inner vital organ, while the peripheral organ will cool down due to the fasting and preservation of the energy. That is the mechanism. But important thing is that you should need to understand the longer fasting will increase the heat energy due to the lipolysis. So this is the initial stages. So for example here is the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland contain a thyroid stimulating hormone receptor, and the thyroid stimulating hormone receptor will stimulate via a sympathetic activity adrenergic neuron through a pituitary gland to produce TSH will bind with the thyroid gland to, but it will be inhibited by the parasympathetic activity, and in this way the T3 and T4 will not produce. It means the heat will not produce, because the production of heat is due to the thyroxine and triiodothyronine. So the preservation of heat by hypothalamus shutting down, and there are a lot of things which that is used for the preservation of energy and preservation of the ATP as well as the preservation of the heat for longer time. So if we will go into the fasting, so it's okay because the preservation mechanism is very strong. So the slow heartbeat also through vagal nerve and manage energy expenditure is possible by this mechanism. Let's begin to understand the hypoglycemia and hypocholesterolemia and hypothermia. So the hyperthermia is the increase of the temperature, while this is the hypoglycemia means the decrease of the glucose, decrease of the lipids, and decrease of the temperature. And here is the adipose tissue, muscle tissue, and liver, hepatocyte. So in this way, here is the pancreas, which that is stimulated to produce the glucagon rather than the production of insulin, and this is the catabolism and bind with the adipose tissue, adipocytes, to produce the free fatty acid through human sensitive lipase enzyme, and triacylglycerol convert into the free fatty acid. Also the triacylglycerol will directly diffuse into the blood also, and here the glucose will produce through a glycogenolysis from the liver and muscle. So in this way, the glucose will enter into the blood circulatory system, and free fatty acids also will absorb into the low density lipoprotein conversion from the high density lipoprotein. But it's okay. The cholesterol will high cholesterol, low density lipoprotein, but it's not a bad thing because it is the initial stages. After this, the extra cholesterol will be excreted through a digestive tract. So remember, the low density lipoprotein will be excreted on the basis of requirement from the liver into the circulatory system, but that cholesterol is useful for the synthesis of the plasma membrane as well as the synthesis of some things as well as provide the energy. So that's all thing is related to the important of the fasting. So the ATP and the synthesis of something which that is from the tissue. And here important thing is that during fasting the insulin is not present, okay, but in the absence of insulin, the decreasing of the insulin will trigger the higher brain cortex to the adenohypophysis of the pituitary to produce the growth hormone that will target to the different tissue, and after the target bind with the muscle to stimulate the insulin like growth factor 1 as well as into the liver, also the production of insulin like growth factor 1. Insulin like growth factor is very important for the stimulation of the channel, the GLUT channel, for absorption of more glucose. But during this time, insulin like growth factor is also used for the proliferation of cell division, and on the other hand, during the fasting, the apoptosis will be occur. But how it's possible, let's also we will discuss. So here is the free fatty acid will be absorbed into the liver and convert into the ketones. So this is known as the ketogenesis, while the growth of the tissue is also occur due to the insulin like growth factor 1, because the insulin are not present, so this is the alternate, but the insulin like growth factor 1 is used for the proliferation of cell more efficiently as compared to the insulin. So the muscle growth will be occur due to the insulin like growth factor 1. So the ketogenesis will be occur. What is the meaning of ketogenesis? Ketogenesis produce ketones, glyceraldehyde, beta hydroxybutyrate, keto acid, and acetone. Keto acid is produced from the muscle cells, breakdown of muscle. So remember about that. That is the possibility will be less as compared to the ketones, beta hydroxybutyrate, which that is come from the fat. So extra ketone will be exhale from lungs and excrete from the kidney. So the extra ketone, because it is lightweight and it is easy to use through brain as well as other tissue muscles, so that is a smooth working as compared to the glucose using, because the glucose use for a glycolysis first, so that is the basically the smooth working and very efficient lifestyle. But in this case here, the keto adaptation will be inhibited during the eating time. But important things you should need to understand, what will be happen after this again fasting. Keto adaptation, quick keto adaptation. Why? Because our body is learning continuously how to survive. So again the fasting will trigger the quick keto adaptation. So, for example, here is the adrenergic nerve, which that is produce the epinephrine and norepinephrine through stimulation of the adrenal gland, adrenal medulla, to bind with the adipose tissue, adipocytes, to lipolysis, as well as insulin-like growth factor 1 for increasing the adipocytes also. But when we will eat again, so the storage of the fat will be faster. If you think about that, if you experience about that. And here the growth hormone receptor bind to grow the adipocytes also, due to the epinephrine, norepinephrine binding to the catabolism of the lipids, while lipolysis, while on the other hand the growth hormone will bind to trigger the insulin like growth factor 1 also. While here is the fasting is the stress in our body, but fat and glucose depletion first, and growth hormones stimulate muscle development. So that is why protein stored for a survivalship. So the protein will store and remain storage throughout the life, but after 1 month or so on, it can be break down due to the fat depletion completely. So here is the cell. For example, this is the damaged cell in our body going to cancer cell, but mitogen receptor inactive, and damaged cell inside the intrinsic factor or a damaged DNA will lead to apoptosis, while on the mitochondria dysfunction will lead to apoptosis, while the extrinsic factor is the necrotic factor, necrosis factor kappa B, and fast ligand, which that is the death ligand used for the binding with the death receptor extrinsically and bind with the cell to apoptosis. So this apoptosis will lead to useful content will again use into the another cell for growth and development, as well as mitosis after the binding with the mitogen. So here is the digestive tract, which that is contains cells. For example, the enterocyte. Enterocyte enzyme preparation for next meal through enterocyte for digestion of further meal. So that is why the rest of the digestive tract will lead to high efficiency for digestion further again when we will eat, so that your body continuously learn how to store energy and how to use energy. And next fasting session can be acceptable more faster than previous fasting session due to keto adaptation and learning through our body. So our body will learn more, so the fasting will more easy. So that is why the Islamic community will fasting is fasting in a month for adaptation for a year. So thanks for watching.